This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, can someone give me access to share my window, share my screen? Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Sagar Thakkar, and our topic of talk is rapid full stack development with Jhipster. Shall we start? Yeah, so I think you guys are able to see my screen, right? Yeah. So, hi everyone. My name is Sagar Thakkar. I am a solution architect at Neonsoft Technologies, and I usually work with the many technologies, including Java, Spring Boot, Angular, Webflux, Kafka, Node, Express, Docker, Kubernetes, and a GraphQL. Uh, the so my role is just used to design a systems and help people with the technical queries and technical issues, and give them a new technology to ease their work. So generally, when I started my career as a programmer, people suggested me to go not to go with the Java and go with the PHP and a Node. So I asked them why you guys prefer PHP and rather than preferring Java or something like Java. So they were like, yeah, PHP is a easy, Node is a easy to go, and we can cover up the things faster. In Java, we need to code everything. It's like it's take a longer time to develop the same thing which I used to develop in a PHP, and I'm used to develop in a Node. So like as an technical person, I was used to see benefits in a Java and used to see some cons on over PHP and a Node and any else technology that the easy to breach, and when something is coded once and utilized by multiple people, so there can be some loopholes which can be easily found and which can be easily breached by the multiple peoples. So, and another thing that Node and PHP are not used to do heavy lifting, multi-threading operations, and they don't have ability to run in specifically if I include the .NET. So the .NET have some before the .NET Core. The people are used to develop the .NET thing in only on a Windows platform, and even deployments are all were on the Windows platform. But the major issue the you used to I hear from everything is like the development time. It's if you go for Java, you require a heavy resources, you require a much more development times, you need a much more understanding over the various programming concepts and all. So my consideration with the Java was like, man, I need something secure. Like I don't want to create a platform which can be easily breached, or which can be breached with some small loopholes and anything. Like I'm just taking any npm dependency, and that can be a threat to my whole platform that I didn't wanted to. So I further develop into the Java. So, but that issue remained in my mind that Java does take lots of development time. Java does have some complexity in it. Even if I want to have some simple token mechanism or some authentication mechanism in my application, I need to code everything a line by line. It need my understanding over the everything, and that was a major issue almost every developer face who goes with the Java. So here, there it comes a Jhipster, which is like a code generator, which generates the code, makes the application rapidly develop, and give our application in whatever the required shape we want. Even if we talk about any modern web application, there are mostly three things which are like backend, front end, and the deployment. So even if I talk about the JSTOR, it gives me the high performance robot Java stack with the Spring Boot, which is a Spring Boot Java framework and which is widely spread over the years. It's a and we can have a front end in any modern framework like Angular or Vue, whichever comfortable to the any front end guy. And when I need something built that powerful, I need some build applications like Yeoman, Maven, and Gradle to just the build the thing as as fluent and powerful possible. So here the JSTAG came into the picture, and it just changed the way I used to see in Java application, that it require lots of code, lots of effort, lots of human developer efforts. And this JSTAG thing changed the prospect of me. I hope that will help you to even change your prospect in terms of Java or in terms of Spring Boot application. So Jsters, any web application generally have a three sides of it, as I told before. That's one is the server side, second is the front end, and third is the deployment portion of that application. So if we talk about the server side, in a Java or in a Spring Boot, we are used to code each and every line of that, every portion of the of our application. That if I can avoid that, that will be like really helpful to me. Like I can just put the things there and it should work out of the box. Even in a front end side, when I talk about the Angular or a Vue.js or React.js application, there is also some things there is a like I need to understand the whole each and every concept of the front end thing, and I need to understand what are the different options I can have and much more things. That's in a further slides. So like it's all about Java, right? And someone will be like, man, I'm not a Java developer, I'm a .NET developer, I'm a Node.js developer. Yeah, I agree with you guys. And it's not everything about the Java. Yeah, it's somewhere you will get it that it's a code generation tool which helps you and which you might have used before. But I promise in the end, you will find something else helpful to you, not in only in terms of Java, but also in terms of Node and .NET. So please stay connected. So the server side issues, right? So in the server side issues, we have a, security models like it's a issue of like how my security layer will be into the application, how my data layer will be interacting with the database, how I will have how I can have a distributed caching system, and how my application can be scalable. Even if we are developing APIs, I need to have some documentation tool like a Swagger, and to implement that on a scale is a different challenge we can face. The similar thing like how my code will be tested and what will be the code coverage on the backend. Mostly on the backend side we used to think about. On the front end side, people don't used to think about more about the code coverage, but it's still there. There are so many frameworks to test the code front end codes and check the front end code coverages. But uh, the things are further that in a front end side we have like what technology I will use, which dependency I will have, like what there are so many versions of npm packages and which npm package will be compatible with which one, and there are what are the different resources available to me, like is my resources are pretty much experience how much I want, like they are matching my expectations, like do I have that much kind of budget to hire those kind of resources, and list goes on. So and even the most important thing, no one generally I don't see people testing the front end code. This is not something people are used to have, But from my perspective, the code you test, the sure the make you the that makes you sure about your application, like your application is running robustly, and you the more test cases you cover about your code, you become assured about your application, that my application is this much robust and I have this percentage of code coverage. So this gives me a surety that even if I change future and I change something, it will let me know that where I did wrong and what can be improved in my code. Deployment, like in a deployment, in before session it was like all about the Docker and everything. But I think in an international standard, I see a Docker as an as a new platform, as an used to platform that people adopting very rapidly, and generally even people are using Docker images more into the development environment. Now, if I'm talking about the code generator, and I'm also still discussing about the development things and the deployment things, I need flexibility. Like if I want to change something, and I'm using right now MySQL on on my local environment, but I want to make that as experience make that experience as Docker as much as possible. So that flexibility is also given to me by Jhipster. And the another thing, like if my application will be the scalable. Like right now I have a traffic of 1,000 people, but in future it can be the traffic of 10,000 people. How am I going to scale my application? How am I going to make a changes, and it will be directly applied to the live server or UAT server or staging server in terms of CI/CD, where I just continuously improving the code. And in many cases in a service industry, I used to see that there are two or three different deployment happening over in a day. So this how we are going to make this thing happen, and how we are going to utilize this uh, as an ready-made framework for us, rather than coding each and every line of even pipeline. So solution for all is a JHster. So JHster is like something that will help you from the start of your development environment till the end of your deployment, right? So when you are starting to have an application which is which is just having a few entities in there, and few relationships are there, and there are only 5-10 pages are there, and the deployment application which will have a lots and lots of code in it. But you need something to handle all the things at the center, at the core of that heart, and that will be managed by mostly JHster. So even if I talk about some experienced people who have experience like 5 years, 10 years, and they know everything, right? So they when they have a experience, when you have experience of 10 years, 12 years, and you have knowledge of most of the things, but you don't have that time to go through each and everything and implement that in your application, and then explain that to your developing teams, and share your knowledge, and also doing the deployments, and also handling the different things. So the JHster comes into the picture, which have already automatically plugged those all the things from the start of the project. So including the your code coverage, and the code quality testing tools are also included into the at the start of your project. So you don't have to wait till the end or till the staging portion of that project. You are just testing all the things from the start of the project, and that makes your things easier. Put the developers into the such an pattern that they are used to adopt the things from the initialization of the projects. So you don't have to worry when you are going to the staging process, or when you are going into the deployment process. So it should have many dependency when we are talk about the front end, back end, and all the things, right? But no, here we have only specifically 4 dependency, which covers the Java, Node, Git, and Docker. Only these 4 installation will have your application, and the most of the things we generally, the people nowadays used to deploy into the Docker containers. So that will be also ready made for you, so you don't have to go and find the specific container how to start that, because it's right now when you want to utilize something, it's inbuilt into, it should be inbuilt into your application, and that support should be there for you. So and when we are having this much things, we also need some standard things that we don't want to miss any industrial standard, and we have our application at such a level that that application can be up to the mark from the start of the project till the end of the project, so we can have such a robustness till the end of project, right? So it's lots of talk, man. I need a code, right? The hipster code I need, man. Uh, if I want to add into that, like if we talk about the server side options and the client side options, the JHipster supports the Spring Boot, the Micronaut, various Java frameworks like Micronaut and all. It's also support the Maven, Gradle, the build tools, the MySQL, MariaDB, PostgreSQL, which are the SQL database. Also include the NoSQL database, the MongoDB, and SQL into the Oracle. If someone knows about the graph database, which is a Neo4j, and some another graph database are still into the market, but Neo4j is one of the leader in them. When we about the caching, we have some ES cache and the mem cache and Redis. When we talk about the caching, like if I want to have any application which should have a optimized search functionality and the messaging queues, there is also inbuilt support for the Kafka and Elastic Cache, and many more things like testing frameworks like Cucumber and all. So when we talk about the back end, these things are here. When we talk about the front end people are you relate more to these things like the TypeScript support, the CSS, HTML, Angular, React. When I talk about the modern web application, it should also cover a SaaS and the model test frameworks like Jest and Protector. Whatever the things I require, it should be there, right? And the deployment option should be there like a Docker, a Kubernetes, Heroku, and many much more. And if we talk about the CI/CD, then my code should be compatible with the most CI/CD tools like Jenkins, Travis, GitLab, and all. So I think many of us, how many of us like know used have utilized the Jenkins or GitLab? You guys can comment into the chat box. Is anyone? Okay. So none of us have used any CI/CD operations right till now. If someone have any question in between, they can ask me immediately. Okay, fine. Let's just start with the demo. Is my screen and font visible to you guys? Or should I increase the font size? Hello, hello. Now is it visible to you guys? Yes. Thanks, Rashna. At least someone is answering here. So if I talk about the code generator and the complexity of the different applications over here, it required it required the easiness. Like if I'm new into the something, I want that thing to understand easily. Like right, I want to implement the things, but it should be in a easy manner that some newbie can also understand. Right. So all of us should be aware of the npm packages and all. And when we talk about the JSter just can be also can be a single npm package, right? And I just want to install. So see, simply I just what I will do, that I will have this JSTR installation command from npm, and I add it as an dependent as an uh, general npm package. So it will be npm install -g, make it global, and install the JSTR generator. And here we go. So in a few minutes and in a few seconds, we have all the JSTR installed into our in our PC, right? And when I go for into the further depth of that, I want to have an application which covers me a whole Spring Boot and Angular thing. I just want that, right? And I don't want to do hard work like more code of like 1 or 2 months to just have some basic CRUD operations into my application. And the JSTRs helps me should help me out, right? So I'm just having that a folder, and I'm creating a small JSTR application with the input of JSTR, and it will go through the each and every requirement I want. Even if I talk about the microservice architecture, where one service discovery server should be there, and the my gateway should be there, which will be the managing my different microservices and the different things into the different applications in my whole microservice environment. So we have that option in Jhipster that, like in a modern world, you need to have a microservice architecture, and you need to have a service discovery and the gateway kind of things into your application. But right now we are going to have some simple monolithic application. And the when we talk about the modern application, right, so it should have that async kind of programming thing, like the older Java applications are uh, no sync application, like which will wait to execute one line and then further go into the second line, but into the second line of code. Into the modern world of this application, people are used to have that the async programming thing into the picture, and it improves the performance of our server and most of the things. So in a Spring we have that support in terms of webflux, so JSTOR is also supporting for that. We are not going to go for that right now. I can have my choice of application, but basically it takes the name of the folder in which I start my application. So right now I will have it just like in my app, and I can have a default package name whatever I want. So I can have a com dot uh, uh, Surat dot my app, like that. And do we want to the extra registry to confirm or scale, monitor and scale my application? Not right now. In the security portion, this is the most beautiful advantage of an JHister. Like in a regular Spring Boot application, I need to understand how JWT works, how ought to work generally, and I need to go through like how I will implement the things, like, and will it be in a modern format, like isn't I'm utilizing the absolute code or the absolute demo, or whichever in my hand. So that will be help with the help with the JHister, and JHister will automatically generate the code of whole security for me. So like I don't have to write a single line of code for the JWT security or auto security. What the minimum selections and code will be there. Uh, it will ask me that which database I want. Like, do I want a SQL? Do I want a Mongo? Do I want Cassandra? Do I want a Neo4j? Or I don't want any database. I just want to have an application. That's also be there. So it's a simply right now we will go for the SQL. In a SQL, it will ask me that which production database you want, right? So what happens generally in a developer machine, we have a limited memory or a limited number of limited RAM and limited processing power. So I don't want the whole SQL portion to be up. I just want to uh, I just want it to be like a small H2 and a small H2 instance in my application, which will be in memory and all. But for the production, I can have a different database. And for the development, I can have a different database like H2 in a in memory or H2 in a disk base, or whether even in a development, I want to have a MySQL itself, right? So we are going for the H2. For the caching, we have a different option like I want a eCache or Caffeine or Hazel cache or like Memcache or Redis implementation, or just I don't want any caching. That's a whole different option for me even in a Spring Boot. See, the Java application is an application where you have your own modifications, your own implementations. But when a helping hand is there for you, you can have your selected option and you can select one of the specified things. And this is the this covers the most of the caching requirements of any modern applications. So right now we will go for the eCache implementation. It will also ask me for do I want to implement Hibernate second level cache, and that's generally we are used to say yes for that, and people are used to use that. Even for the build tool, people like the old stack people are mostly now moving to the Gradle, and new stack people are going for the Maven because they have the most of the things into the tutorial world, and everything is into the Maven till now. But the Gradle is something that even old stack people are switching, and the new stack people who understand the helpfulness of the Gradle, the people are moving for the Gradle. So we are going to select the Gradle for that. The further implementation, like if my application is a huge and I need a search engine, I need a WebSocket support, I need a Kafka support, and I need a API first development, whichever is the requirement for me. Like, so I can have a multiple selection into that. Right now we are not going to use any of that because that will be increase the complexity to understand the things. In a front end framework, we can have Angular, React, or no client. Like I just want a backend into Jhipster, but I want my front end differently. Like I want to go for something different than Angular and React. So here I can select a no client or Angular or React, and my application will start to be building. Before that, I just need to have a theme because I have uh, selected the front end in Angular. Do we did internationalization support? So something is that, like when we are generating a modern web application, which is generally for different available into the different countries, so it might require internationalization support that will cover the English and the other languages. We can have that right now, right? So I can have my base application in English and my another different application in including Arabic, Chinese, whatever the thing we want. So I generally used to say people that Chinese people sell us goods. Why don't we sell us our technology or our development? Because we have that kind of power, right? So even for the testing framework, we have different options like Rattling, Cucumber, and Protector. So we can have one of that implementation. So the JUnit and Jest are basically implemented into the our core code. So like whenever I'm generating a specific component or specific entity, it will be also creating a code test cases for me, a basic test cases which covers the CRUD operation of that entity. But in addition of that, I can also have this implementation, none of which we are going to use right now. There are many more generators and helpful from the Jhipster market, which we are not going to utilize right now. And my application is being generated. My application is being generated, and what do we have here, right? So let me open this into an editor, so I can have your basic code go through, which can be like what are the different uh, we have. Here we have our application, and its dependencies are being fetched from the Gradle dependency, and we can see how my Gradle dependency are being synced, and we can go into the depth of the code where I can check whatever the Java code has been pre-written into the by the code generator, which covers my logging and security configurations and web configurations and all. Right. Additionally, I can have a basic repository structure and the basic REST services, whichever I wanted. So like these are the pretty much almost many much more things we generally use to code everything in the manually, but the basic structure and the basic exceptions and many much more things are almost automatically generated with the help of Jhipster. In addition to that, I can just start my application with /gradle. So we can have a look that uh, what are the different uh, goals, what are the basic services are provided by the JSTR, and the different configuration we have into our Java normal Java application. So in a in a real world, these all the things are being developed by the developers, and these all headache which is similar into the all the projects is taken and repeated over by developer, and that's consume a lots of time and lots of man hours, which can be removed into the JSTR. I think I need to increase the font size, right? Is it visible, guys?
Yes, visible.
Thanks. I think,
Can you zoom in little? This
yeah,
particular code is not visible.
yeah, I'm just okay. 24. So my basic code, everything is like being generated. So let's just let me just show you the web app portion of that, the same thing. So like in a we have selected a front end into the Angular. So our Angular code is also being generated, and we can have that look on that code. So like how my Angular code is being there, and various the entities into the Angular code being added into this portion of the entities, and my how my home component is being coded, how routing is added, and normally and nowadays people are used to work with the SCSS. So the all the code, all the basic code will is automatically generated with the help of JS code generator, where my even I can say have an option of whether I need to have a SCSS or CSS as an uh, a graphical portion of that application. Even that covers my authentication services and authentication interceptors, where I can check for the whether in each request in header I have a token included or not, and if it is not included, then the request should be rejected and like that. So even it supports the CSRF and CORS in all the modes. Like this, all the things are we are used to code, and this is almost a work of 1 or 2 months, even on the start of the project, if you want to implement all the standard at the start of the project. In addition, we were talking about the Docker containers, right? So we have our application to be ready to deploy onto the server with the help of MySQL container and some Java profiles. So like I can have a multiple profile for the different developer environments. And in that portion of Java, it can be a really helpful when you have a multiple configuration, multiple profiles, like which with what are the parameters to be set into the into a normal dev environment, right? And what are the parameter to be set into the production environment. So the multiple profiles are also being included into this code generator. In addition of that, let's check our application has been started or not, and voila, our application is started. Open URL. And so this is a home page of my Jhipster application, where I just need to sign in first. And this is the auto-generated code which we used to have it. And even this mechanism is available into the different platform. But in general, in Java or in a Angular application, you need to create everything from base, which is almost already given by the Jhipster. So here I can have a basic list of users, which I can have an administration, the different metrics like what is the CPU and what is the memory of this application, which we even in a modern world, even in today's world, I am not even used to check from the application perspective how much CPU utilization is utilized on by this application on my system. uh, in production we are checking, but in development we are not checking that. We are just used to based on assumptions, right? How my different configurations are here, different logs. The most important thing is the API documentation for any application, and this is Swagger inbuilt implemented for us. So like this is the basic services which covers the account related information, the authentication, the registration, and how I will authenticate for the specific JWT controller. So it gives me a API portion and the front end portion. So like whenever I want to have some web mobile application to be working, these things will be available for me from the backend. So I just need to have this API to be connected into my mobile application in Android and iOS application, or even nowadays people are going for Ionic, Flutter, and much more things. Even for the database, I have a database console, which is right now H2 because we are into the development profile. Addition of that, when we were talking about the Docker containers, so like we have Docker, even a container support for the SonarQube, which is a code coverage framework for us. The experienced people used to know about the SonarQube and the uh, and uh, JCoco and all. That includes the Prometheus and Grafana containers for me. So it's also in inbuilt portion of that JSTR generator. So it's have a lots of configuration, lots of the thing which we used to know in later stage of development. Even some applications don't reach that level of perceptions, and it get close, or some complication comes over into the Java development thing. So which comes if this all the things comes into the start of the application, my application will be like something which is having some standard even at the start of the application. If I'm maintaining those standard, I can easily reach my goal, easily have my cup of expectation to be fulfilled into the Java application development world. Uh, Now, uh, I have created a code, but I need my custom things, right? So like I need my basic entity structure, my basic entities interacting with each other. And how am I going to do that? So for that, we have something called Jhipster tool, and where I can have the entity diagram and entity structure to be defined. So I'm defining an entity called a region, and that region have a connectivity with the country, and that country will have a relationship with the location, and that belongs to the department. So it tells me like this is an employee department job history application where I have usually my employees are listed over here and in which department the employee is working, at what location it's situated, and in which country, in which region, what is the job of that employee, job title, it's his titles, max salary, min salary, what are the different tasks are given to that employee, and the language thing, and what will be the different job history of that employee. So that here I just create an entity and region, entity name, country, and giving the parameters, and we can have what that help on that from this side panel, and I can check what are the different options for me, what are the different enums, how I can define the relationships and all. So this is the basic example given by the Jhipster team, where I can have my different entities to be structured. But after structuring the entity, I need to have a relationship between the entities, and that relationship also can be defined. So like I can have a country to be related to the specific region, and I need a, a many to many relationship where one job can be assigned into the different task. And when I talk about my one to many relationship, like my single employee have worked on these different jobs, and this should be a bidirectional and unidirectional, and the different configuration how I want to have a relationship between the entities are there. So I just have to define those in a one liner. So like if I want to have an one-to-one relationship even between the employee and his location, I just need to have a relation type here, employee to location, and here I have improved the diagram and all. So this is something we used to just think about it, and we type those things, and we can directly implement that without involving the further development people and the further more people into the picture. We can just have this portion to be downloaded into. I can just write the script over here with the pagination and infinite scroll support, and I just can download this JDL file into my download portion. Now I want to implement these things into all the things in my code, right? So I can have just jhipster import JDL, my download folder and the JDL file, and it will generate all the things which we have defined, all the entity structure and all the relationship structure I have defined over here, and will generate the implement all the things on my code, including backend and the Angular frontend portion, which is not usually seen in any Java development environment. So yeah, my 531 modules are being touched, and these whole things are being implemented. Now I just need to check that whether the things are implemented going correct or not. So I'm just starting up my Jhipster application. My Spring Boot application is up, including the Angular application. And It should be available at localhost 8080. Let me sign in. Admin, and my entities are here, even with some demo data. So like I don't want to have a basic entities to be generated for just for the demo and testing purpose. They used to automatically get create for me. Right, the name will not be in terms of whatever the field name we are giving, but it will be something to see or check. Even if I want to edit, the edit option is there. If I want to delete, the delete option pop-up is there. If I want to view, the view option is there. If I want to have a different things to be implemented, the whole even to create this thing, it takes effort of almost 1 or 2 months of the team. And like it, I am expecting a team of at least four or five people working over the back end, the front end things. And it's easy to use, is easy to go. Let's check for the API. Like I have all the CRUD APIs generated for the different entities and different relationships of the entities, and I can just click on that portion. So generally what I used to see is I used to see these basic models of the whatever the entity I have defining, and that model structure is also represented into the Swagger documentation. So I think Swagger is not only uh, in Java world, it's also in non-Java worlds, including the .NET and all. So it's there, right? So even to have these things, it takes a lots of effort, and it's created for me. What additionally, like everything you are doing, so what will be the purpose of developer, right? So the purpose of developer is just to have a business logic. When we want something to be covered in terms of business logic, the developer will be working, making his hand dirty and going through the code. But it will be the easier, it's not a rocket science, right? So it's our the standard Java code is there, where we have a my service layer of the different services with the comments and everything, and my DAO layer, including repository layers for the different JPA repositories, and and my entities to be like what the regular entity I want it to be, right? But this is something an auto generated, and I want my like once I did that, do I have will I be able to go into this entity structure, the change the thing and change the to just make a one small change into the like job history? Should I need it to be like making this JDL import and all the things again? No, actually we have something like we can go on the command basis. So like I can have an additional command called Jhipster entity, and the entity name. Let's take a basic entity called uh, the employee, which will be easily understandable by everyone. So my employee entity will have a name for name, first name and last name. But our Indian starter also have a middle name portion. So it will ask me that I want to regenerate entity, I want to add more fields and more relationships and or the remove anything. So I will just add the thing, and it will ask me like it will show me like these are the fields here we have, these are the relationships we have. Do you want to add any another field, or you want to add any relationships? I will just press yes, and I will give the middle name, and it will ask me which of the data type we want. So I will just go for the string. And it will ask me, do you need a validation on that? It will do you want it to be required a unique or minimum length or maximum length or something, some regex pattern you want to implement? I just put it it should be there, like I don't, I want it in a required. And do you want to add another field? No. Do you want any another relationship with a different entity, and that also we can add, and in that even have we can have a one-to-one and one-to-many thing. But right now just we are putting no on that, and it will ask me that whether you just want to make that change into the back end or the front end, but we can have that to be improved. This fake data employee.csv, right? it will generate a fake data for me. So in terms where I just don't want that fake data to be generated in my application, what I can have that I just go into that fake data folder in a Liquibase in a fake data, and in that CSV file I just remove that data, and my whole deployment or whole development with my own data rather than the virtually added data. But right now just go for that. No, we don't want to mess up the things. We don't want to dirty our hand much more. It will ask me whether I want to improve my domain object of the Java code, and whether I want to even there is a possibility, right, that I didn't I made a change into the uh, into into my the controller portion or controller file. And I don't want to override that with my custom or generated code with the Jhipster, but I want that change into the entity structure, so I can have that segregated implementation, whether I want to that I want that change onto the resource portion or the on specific portion of that application, whether I want that to be on a REST implementation or not. Uh, do I want to improve the HTML component of that employee file? So it's possible that I have made some changes over here where I'm selecting the entity, and I'm selecting an employee. The application is down, right? So I can have that implementation to be custom on my end, but it's up to me whether I want to have that modification or not, or whether I want to remove the previous modification and all. And I just simply type A for all, and everything will be updated. And I can have a custom selection whether I want to implement that specific change into my Angular application, or whether I just want that change just into my backend portion. So I can have a custom configuration as per my requirement. I should not be completely dependent on the framework, and I should have my own control over the application and development. So let's check we have that change on our front end side or not, because we selected for the all, right? Just let me know how much time we have left.
Uh, we have roughly 20 minutes.
Okay, fine. So I'm trying to wrap up the thing faster. I'm signing in again. I'm checking for whether the change we have implemented in it or not. And this employee portion, there should be some improvement. So like I messed somewhere, but we might have the mm, middle name over this portion. Additionally, what we can have that I talk a lot about the code coverage and Sonar Cube and all. So that's also support in this JSTOR and the Docker container. So what I can check for that, let me just go into uh, this JSTOR, and I have a whole guide into my we have a in JSTOR website, but I just want to check the code quality and on the different builds. So first of all, I just need to up the Docker container of the Sonar Cube, and that will be easily here. So my Docker container is already up. I can show you with the help of Kitematic. So I can see my Docker container of the Sonar Cube is available here, and we have the that's available on the 9001, and 9092 port is on open on the 9092. So what I can do, I just need to have some one command to check whether the things are under the my specific under the some matching some standards, or there are so many maps we need to improve. and it might take a 3-4 minutes, but I have that to be pre-configured at the starting of the development. So till the end, my application will not be in a such a portion that there is a many rough code or there is a many unnecessary code. Poor algorithms are written there, and I need to improve everything. Like we generally used to see that when developers are working there and some architect person or the some senior developer is there, which is going through the code of each and every developer, and he's like, yeah, what's the mess is there? So we usually want to avoid that thing, and if we can that some of the power to the developer's hand where he can also taste by himself that whether I am matching certain standards or not, and if there is some issue, I can discuss with my team leader and all. So it will take 3-4 minutes at least there, but we can have our test integration tests, UI tests, and all the things are there. So I just forgot to show you guys that there is a test case is also written by the Jhipster for our basic RUD operations, which covers the Java portion, and the domain test are there. So test cases are already there, which on which we are always lazy. Who is gonna write the test cases, man? I don't want to write test cases. Even nobody wants to write test cases, and that's why we are not following the standard practice of test-driven development. But nowadays it become a necessary because when the size of application increases, the dependency of the various component on each other might or might not increases. We are not sure about that, but there will be something that I'm writing a code at one place and it's going to disturb somewhere else. It might be it is possibly there, and when I have some things, some basis test cases written over the application, so I can just have a test case for the additional things. I don't want to write the test case for basic RUD operations, man. It should be there, and it's there for us. So it's not about only Java portion, but we have almost those test cases into the Angular portion, and that test cases are also though there uh, for the different entities like employee department and all. Then that those test cases are there even for the service class and even for the component class, even for the dialog. So this is the test case for the department delete dialog. So like I'm deleting something, it will ask me whether you want to delete or not, but test cases is written for that. So it's disrupting something over there into the delete operation. I can have that detail that I did somewhere wrong over here, and we can improvement on that. You don't need to be like no knowledgeable for the front end, back end, and all, but at least you can check your portion of code. Like you can check your portion of code to you modified, and you can check the if you are a Java developer or a backend developer, you can check whether you have that code written correct and is it passing through all the test cases, or is it disrupting the existing code and anything else. We have our test done on the Sonar Cube and all. So this is the information on that. Let me check that on localhost 9001, and we have our test report over here. So right now it's almost auto-generated everything, so we don't have any bugs and all. But in future we might have when we are taking a control of that. But we have we have some code smells there, and we can check on that whether we want to improve on that or something like that. But it's something like we are lazy to implement, right? We don't go for this implementation everywhere, but if we follow this practice, it assure about our work. It gives some certain confidence in terms of convincing client that, man, I have did this much amount of work, I have these things for you, and these things are ready in like within an hour for you. So it's a really rapid development in terms of, like, if we talk about Angular and Java portion, and that's not easy to achieve in a in a normal environment where we are customly coding everything. And the thing I used to get when I used to talk with the PHP and the no and other people, like, I have a ready-made thing, man. I just directly plug and play that. Here you got that, which we were the reason we were trying to avoid the Java and the Java technology, which is a heavy resource utilizing, the costly thing is that, right? But when we have these things, our project cost will be decrease, our timeline will be decreased, and our development will be rapid, and we have amount of assurance, the quality to be improved, and many much more benefits we have in modern world. So this is something which we can implement into the modern development environments. But this is not just limited to a simple monolith application, because we are living in the world of microservice applications. And if we talk about any big giant, they all are going for the microservice. Even someone want to distribute the concern of the services and makes the task simpler. People used to tend more on the microservice architecture, and it's also inbuilt supported by the Jhipster. So you can have a your UA server or your Edge server or your what we say service discovery server given by the Jhipster, and you can just directly utilize that, just having a Docker container up. And that all the things you are given into the basic Jhipster code. And like, even if we were talking about the are we deploying the SQL database into the container? Yes, we generally people deploy when they go for the Kubernetes environment and all. What I used to see into the industry, that people are try to stick over the root implementation that they were used to have, and try to avoid when it comes for the data. The people used to avoid the uh, utilization of the modern thing when it comes for the data and security perspective. But it's there, we can utilize that, so you can start to utilize that into your UAT environment and all, and in further you can have that implementation into your into the live environment, and you can rely on that. Even it have this volume thing to be inbuilt given. So I just when I want to enable the volume, I just need to comment out the code and it will be there. And I can just select what portion I want to store my SQL database and all. So this is the demo. It went well almost, and we did some mistake. But yeah, I promise you guys, this is not only about the Java, right? I told you it won't be only about the Java. So Jhipster is also working on the Jhipster node and Jhipster.NET Core, which is .NET Core, which is something newly brought up by Microsoft to deploy the .NET application into the Linux systems and all. And Jhipster is also supporting that, and the supporting repository links are here. So you guys can check into that one. It's basically, if you just want to find it, the documentation and things about the Jhipster. Let me, yeah. So the things are over here, where you can just have different things what are supported by Jhipster, what are the CI/CD platforms, the deployment options, the front-end client-side options, and the different modules, and the newly working modules on the Jhipster. Like, even people were used to say, like, man, I don't like that theme. So there is a whole marketplace of the Jhipster where you can have a different themes, including the Prime NG and all. You have a .NET support with the .NET Core, and Vue.js support for the Vue.js, and there is also a Kotlin support from the Jhipster, a Node.js from the Jhipster team, and the Micronaut support for the all. So like, it's a whole new environment you will meet into if you get into the depth of Jhipster. but it's something considerable environment where if you just don't want to get into the depth of everything, but you need to utilize some specific features, you can have that. And this entity structure and the different commands are also available with the documentation and all. So you just need to have a simple work of like Saturday, Sunday on for a month, and you will be ready to go with the Jhipster. So within a week, you can have almost that development environment that where you can build a real world application if you are experienced with the Spring Boot and all. Let's go for a Q&A. That's it from the demo. And do we have any questions, guys?
Guys, if you have a question, you can unmute yourself and ask a question. In case if you want, you can go to the chat box and post your question there as well. And thank you very much, Sagar, for the very informative session. And I would just like to mention about the demo. So whenever I do presentation, I pray to the demo god, because that's what you need to do. When it runs, it runs. Most of the
Yeah,
time it don't.
but yeah, it was like I just forgot to pray to the demo god. So
Yeah. So you for you, Rachna Lapsiwala has asked about the PPT and references. So Sagar will be sharing the PPT with me, and then I will be sharing those detail and uploading that details to the CSI Surat chapter or the Surat user group website, and that will be made available to you guys. Keep watching csisurat.com and Surat user group website. Let me write that down here: csisurat.com and Surat user group pass.org. So these are the two places where you will be you will be seeing the details about the PPT or the demo or the references.
in addition of that, I would like to add, like you guys can connect me on the Twitter at Sagar12 and on my mobile in 937725095. I can show it here because we are limited number of people on the session. But
Yeah,
when you have any queries and something on the JSTR, just ping me. I can help you out. Thank you. Thank you, team, for giving me such a beautiful opportunity. And thanks a lot.
wonderful. Thank you very much, Sagar.
Thank you.
Bye bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye.